I go for a thesis? Should I go for a corporate thesis and all of these things? So I'll try to like keep all of those things and tell you like what are the pros and cons. Then the application procedure. So how did I apply it in MIT Media Labs? What were my round of interviews, my round of like what are the assignments that I got and everything. Then certain tips and tricks which I feel might increase your chances of getting a thesis better and like which can make your overall thesis experience way better. So on that, and then in the end, we're gonna have like a live doubt session and the Q&A like for all the queries that you guys have. So I'm going to start this session on a very high words of inspiration and a note that it's actually a very famous quote from Walt Disney that all of our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. So why I'm saying this, I know like this quote looks like a very gyani kind of quote, but the reason of putting this is because for me, the guy, like a different type of introduction for me. So I'm actually from electronics and my complete interest lies in the CS domains. So just to give you a context, and I have a very normie CG. I don't have like I've been in a 9 pointer or something like that. So if a guy can like me who has a very normie CG and is from electronics can get a thesis from like a CS domain, I think anyone can get whatever they want. You just have to be like patient and like courageous to pursue it. So my thesis project, what I actually worked upon. Uh, so I think like I'm gonna tell you about like the official thesis title. So I don't know if you guys have heard about it. So there is like a Scratch tool. Have you guys heard about it? So can you just like tell me in the session box, maybe comments or something? Okay, right. You guys have heard about it. Perfect. So right. So I'll give you people those who have not heard about it. So Scratch tool is basically it's actually a very wide tool right now, which is used by kids majorly to understand like the basic like the basic conditions, the basic logic, and like try to in a fun and animated way. So basically, what you do is you have a playground area where you can like use various blocks and animations and sprites and you can create your own projects. Those projects do require some kind of logic. So the logic are something like, okay, you can have if else conditions, you can have loops, you can have certain triggers on certain clicks and all of those things. So that is what Scratch is. So it's a very wide open source tool which is developed by MIT Media Labs, and it was developed by professor, whom I was working under with, Professor Mitch Resnick. You can probably like Google about him. So he is like the considered to be as like the official founder of the Scratch, and like he has actually done a lot of research on child psychology and like how children's actually like how do they interact and like what sorts of things can help them like grow better. So Scratch is also actually helpful in that. So that is what a Scratch tool is. So now my official thesis title was Development of Scratch Collaborative Features and Optimizing Network Latency and Real-Time Rendering Images with Digital Processing for Raspberry Pi, Lego ARM kits, etc. So I'll be very frank, this might look very fancy and as if I don't know, like I've done something very big wonders, but trust me, it is not. I mean, so these thesis titles are actually supposed to be very fancy, and if you guys can closely observe that the thesis title I have tried to orient it is slightly electronics oriented, and it's not very true picture of what I actually worked upon. I'll tell you why this is happening and like what was the reason for this. So okay, so now like just try to break it out into small chunks of what I actually worked upon. So if you guys have heard about Google, I mean, you guys have probably worked upon Google Docs, right? So what happens in Google Docs is different people can collaborate together. For instance, like I can collaborate, like three people can in the real time can see what changes I am doing, and the other person can like try to make them like they can add new lines or maybe they can add comments or something like that. So that is like the basic concept of collaborative learning. So I was responsible for developing this type of collaborative learning in the Scratch. So the basic idea was you join a playground, you join a Scratch playground, and some of your 2, 3 friends more will join that playground. And then together they can work upon them. So for instance, let's say I add some sprite or maybe some block on my project, it will be visible to everyone in real time. They can try to copy it to their own local versions of projects. they can modify it. They can, like, depending on the settings, whether you're allowed to modify or not, they can modify it. Then they can, like, basically collaborate on everything. So they can play it, and there are a lot of features on Scratch. So yeah, that is what, like, I meant by the collaborative features. Then optimizing network latency. So the biggest blocker that we were facing was to make it extremely real time and there's no lag. For instance, if I put anything on my block right on my playground right now, any block on my playground right now, that should be visible to everyone within fraction of seconds, because that is what I feel gives a very seamless experience, and like it makes your experience way better. So that was the biggest blocker. So I had to, like, optimize the network latency. So by latency, I mean, if you guys don't know, so it's basically like what lag the person is facing. So I had to optimize that. And the last thing, which is real-time rendering images with digital processing. So to be honest, I have not done anything of this. I'll tell you why I just written this. And the other aspect which I worked upon was developing the complete backend structure, the backend APIs, which was responsible for, like, onboarding a new user, because this type of thing was not existing in the current Scratch scenario. So we had to, like, add some new DBs, we had to add some new logic flow and everything. So there was a complete backend flow that had to be implemented. So I worked on that. These were the three things. So coming up on my major achievements. So we, as I said, we developed a real-time collaborative tool. It was very snappy and it was very fast. And so I'll tell you, like, how, what blocker we was facing and how we actually optimized it. Then I actually architectured and implemented the complete backend. So there was a complete architecture review that was happening, and, like, the complete infrastructural architecture with respect to your, like, scalability point of view. For instance, having queues, having lots of DBs, having machines, having containers. These might be fancy terms for you, because to be honest, they are okay. Just as guys, is my screen visible or is it stopped visible? Can anyone tell me?
It is visible.
It's visible.
Okay, it's visible. Perfect. Because
There's
actually
some
power
power
went off.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, power went off. So that's why. But yeah, okay. If my screen is visible, perfect. Right. So, okay, where was I? Yeah. So I might be using very fancy terms right now. Like, okay, what are containers? What are, like, SQS queues and all? So don't worry about that. This is what it comes in part of, like, a development, like a full stack development kind of thing. But yeah, just to give a brief idea, like the complete building blocks of how the data flow will happen on this new feature, on this new module, I implemented that. And the third thing was a slightly, like, it was not, I was not supposed to do it, but since I was very interested into these things, so I worked on that. So basically, we maintained the one push CI/CD pipelines. So CI/CD is basically continuous integration, continuous deployment. That basically means that if you guys have ever worked about any of the building frameworks, like maybe, like, say, Java or C++, you need to compile your project, right? And then you need to deploy it. So what happens is, so in the previous scenario, what they were doing was they were, like, using Heroku. So Heroku is like a self-served, I would say, like a SaaS-based tool, software as a service tool, which can, like, give you some free instances, and you can, like, just push it on GitHub and it will deploy the code for you. So we deployed, like, we created something like this, but it was completely in-house. So you push it on GitHub, you push your code on GitHub, the code will be compiled on one of the machines. Those were the cloud machines, and from those cloud machines they will be deployed to some other cloud machine. So that was my, like, the third thing. In terms of completeness, like, so yeah, the duration was 6 months. I think I started somewhere around, like, April, and it was there somewhere around, like, till December officially. But after that, there were certain things which I need to keep doing from in January, February, and I'm still in touch with them if they, like, require any of my, like, if any of the things are failing which had my dependency. So I'm still in touch with them. So yeah, this was my basic thesis project. It was a development oriented, in the sense, because I was, like, supposed to work more on the implementation side rather than researching on, okay, how this things works. Like, okay, what is the child psychology, how the child psychology works. I was not working a lot on that, but more like I was getting requirements from my profs, from my instructors, and They were telling me, okay, now we want to build this, how you can build this. So the complete thought process of building it, like, okay, what all components should be there? What all components, where should it come? That was one of my, like, I would say, like the part, like what I was supposed to do. Then completing it and delivering it was the other aspect. So in terms of completeness, I think I was able to complete 80 to 90% of what I was supposed to do. There were some far-fetched targets that we did. Obviously, like if you are working anywhere, you will have some far-fetched targets. So that was like supposed to be in the next phased release. So probably next year they might like work on that. Uh, Regarding the live status, so it's still not live yet. It's actually in the internal beta testing. So for the, I think for the internal MIT grads, it's visible. And for the certain, like the certain users who are very active on Scratch communities and all, we are like trying to have a demo with them. So yeah, that was my thesis project. Let's come up on now. I think with what will be more relevant for you guys is why thesis, and like, okay, why not something else? And I think these are all the points from my perception. I mean, they can be true, they can be false, but this is what I feel according to my the experiences that I had till now. So the first very important thing I feel is that for considering a thesis is that you care about why for any technology more than how. For instance, let's say, like you do, like there is some library, let's take an example of some AI ML based topic, a problem statement. So there are certain libraries which are available. So some people who are focused more on practical learning, they focus more on, okay, how I can use this library and how I can solve someone else's practical problem. For instance, let's say there's a library for object detection. So how I can use that object detection library to maybe control my drone, some drone, which so that like it doesn't collide with objects, something like that. That is a practical approach. The theoretical and the why approach for this, like, is okay, how I can detect objects, how my library can work with that. That is where I feel the importance of thesis comes up. That is where you start deep diving, you start doing a research, and is what is like the core, I would say, the essence of a thesis. So if you feel that the why for any technology matters more than how to you, I think you should definitely give a thought for considering thesis as your option. So I think Bix gives us a very good feature of having thesis as an option because like you get a complete semester free. You can like in most of the other colleges you have, it's actually very painful process and there are a lot of problems. But in our college with respect to thesis, and if it's on campus, there is no problems at all in my experience. There are certain different type of problems which comes due to branch. So again, I'll come up with that in tips and tricks on how that like it, how you can probably make that process slightly easier. But in general, like they don't give you a problem. Okay, why are you going in this university? Why are you going in that university? Or you are completely free. Whatever field you want to explore, you can go in that. So yeah, the second point I feel is good for why thesis is you're planning for masters in near future. So the very good advantage of going with a thesis is you make connections in the university that you're working with. And making connections in university means you're making connection with profs. Now, if you're making connection with profs, that means they're gonna give you an LOR. And for masters, you need to have minimum number of LORs to be like in a good, I would say, like in a good position to get shortlisted. And I think if you are in some like a decent university or maybe a good university, that LOR actually matters a lot. And it can be like a game changer for you if you have like a decent GRE score and like all those other things. So yeah, if you're planning for masters, do give it a thought. I would suggest go for thesis and like try to get an LOR from your professor. And then okay, you enjoyed deep diving into the field. So as I said, let's take a very like a very good example for this with respect to my experience. So when I was working on this optimization of the real-time rendering, so like how I can make sure that like the like the block that anyone adds is actually real time and it's very efficient. So I initially used sockets. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but the basic idea of sockets is basically it's actually used to implement some real time features. So a good example of sockets is all your WhatsApp messengers or bots actually use sockets to send messages. So we initially used that, but there was a problem with sockets that it cannot actually break the data into small chunks and can make it like make it like a buffer kind of thing, and you can process it easily. So how did I know that? I mean, there was nowhere mentioned. So what I did was I went into the open source library of a socket. I went into the code and I started realizing, okay, what are exactly they're doing? How are they figuring out, like, what exactly is the thought process behind working of sockets? Then I realized, okay, if this is not working, there has to be something else which is actually solving this limitation. And that's where comes WebRTC. So it's also like a similar kind of protocol, which is like used in sockets and like some it's basically used to make real-time sync better. But the advantage is it actually breaks down stuff, like it actually breaks down your data into small, small chunks. You can process it, you can manipulate it. There are a lot of features involved in that. So then I went deep in dive into it and I saw okay how I can make it use for us because WebRTC is very complicated to use initially. So yeah, that is like the example of deep diving. If you feel for some fields you're very deep interested into it, for instance, let's say you're very deep interested into AI, ML, or anything, for any field that you feel, just I feel you can give thesis a thought. And okay, you are going to pursue research and development as your career path. So as I said, like if you are like research and development, I mean R&D divisions. So a lot of companies actually have their R&D divisions. So R&D divisions are basically responsible for like getting that new edge thing. So like for instance, let's say IBM is working on next gen AI game players, like like the bots which can play games. So that is an R&D division for them. So most of our big giants actually have some very good R&D divisions, and they generally hire like MS and PhD students actually in that. So if you feel like if you think that is somewhat is like help you like is what is attractive to you, I think you should go for it. Then you're confused between MS, MBA, or corporates. So I was actually in this situation when I was not very sure that whether okay a startup job is good for me or whether a corporate big MNC job is good for me or whether should I go for like a completely different R&D division than research because I actually love exploring things a lot. And then there was another different aspect which was MBA. So basically like if you're interested into product management and all those things. So that was also somewhat I was slightly biased for. So I was very confused. And that's where I felt ki, okay, let's just experience a thesis first and see if it's like if it interests me. If it does, then like it obviously removes other two options, MBA and corporates. But if it doesn't, then I will be happy that okay, I am sure I don't want to go for an MS. So I feel if you guys are also confused about something like this, you should definitely go for a thesis and like try it as an experiment because in college like try to like do as many experiments you can in your college life so that once you graduate you're sure enough okay where you want to go, and trust me that will make your life way better and peaceful. So yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. So the other point is if you feel like you want to travel abroad and like have the best 6 months of your college life, and like, I mean, I just like included this point because I feel like this is actually a very good way for like exploring abroad universities. I'm pretty sad about this fact that I could not go to MIT actually in person because that was the time when this peak COVID thing happened, and my like complete thesis experience was remote. Although it was good, but like the essence of working in that lab where like all the next gen things are happening and like all the like very like a perfect top notch crowd is around you. So if you feel that like you want to experience that and like the life of an abroad, like whether you want to settle abroad or something like that, I think you can probably take this as an option, provided you know it right, you have a backup option ready, and like you know it right, okay, I mean, you are placed probably or somewhere you know, okay, I might get an offer from this company because if thesis doesn't work out for you, then you could have a backup option for that. So yeah. And the last point I feel is if you're interested in working with Microsoft Research, Google PhD, Google Scholars, and all those things. So Microsoft Research is one of the prominent, I feel like many of the big actually go for Microsoft Research. I think I don't know if you guys have heard about him or not. There's a very like one of my mentors actually, Sebastian Santi. He's currently working in Microsoft Research, and he was like so like I actually learned a lot from him. So there are a lot of people from my batch also. Some people are joining MSR right now. So if you feel you're interested into Microsoft Research, like like a certain corporate touch into the research, I think you can also pick thesis because they actually like judge you a lot on the basis of your profile and the projects that you have worked upon. So yeah, this is I feel why you should go for a thesis with respect to PS. If you are actually considered more about any of the practical stuff, like you care about, okay, how do corporates work? How is this product built? Or something like that, then I think PS is a better option for you guys. Cool. So now let's just come up on my application procedure. So I'm going to focus certain this thing on my application procedure. Reason being, my procedure was, I feel, is slightly different from what other people actually have. So I mean, you guys have heard like what other people do is like they keep cold mailing, and then they heard from professors, and then they just set up discussions, and that's how like they get their thesis, something similar to that. So for me, the procedure was very different. So I had an initial application which I applied through a mutual connection on my LinkedIn. So I was following actually MIT Media Labs from quite a lot, and I actually like worked on this Scratch open source before. Like I think during my second year, I have contributed initially, like when I was just starting open sourcing. So I would just search for like very good projects, and this was something which was in like which fascinated me a lot. So I was working on that. So, and that's how I connected this person who was in the MIT actually. So I initially applied through a mutual connection that, okay, I'm actually interested into this, and can you connect me with me the right persons? So then he connected with me some two PhD scholars of the research group I was working upon, and they had a first interview, like a very interview. The first interview was more on like, okay, what is my background, what I actually like, what courses I have done, and like what is my CGPA and all, and like what projects have I worked upon, what is my skill set, some basic technical level questions, and all those things. That was my first interview. Then I think like so at that time they were actually looking out for some students to join. That's why I think I was slightly lucky enough to like get this in, like to get to this interview. Then I think this is the part where most of the, I feel like I have never heard this before, but like it's different from my application with respect to others. So I was working, like I was given a lot of assignments and projects. I think during my application phase itself, I think for 1.5 months, I was working on projects and assignments with them. So this was, if I consider about timelines, I think this was the time when this COVID scenario actually just happened, and when we just like left our campus. So I think I had my first interview in campus only, as far as I remember, but the future interviews was at the like from home only. So yeah, that was the timeline. Somewhere around March, this was happening. So like complete March and complete April, I was involved into this in the assignments and projects. So coming up on my assignments and projects, they were actually very detailed. And with this, like I actually had to do a live feature implementation. It was not like that, ki, okay, some technical like DSA problems or something was given. No, it was not like that. It was a basic, like a complete React project because I had to work on front end. So it was a React project and some things on backend. So that was a Node.js. So I was working on that. I had like 3, 4 evaluative in the sense because so many people actually applied. I think as far as I know, I think 50 to 60 people were shortlisted initially after the first interviews. And then they give certain sort of features to each and every student, and they were just checking different aspects. So what I was judged upon was my code quality, how well I could solve the problem, how efficient my solution was, and like how good, like how better, like how I'm approaching this problem, and what sort of libraries I'm using, and am I not using like a lot of libraries, and like because too many libraries make your code bulky, so certain trade-offs, am I considering those trade-offs and all those things. So that was what I was like allotted on initially. And then there was a mini project that actually combined like we like a lot, like it was actually like 7, 8 people who were working on that together, and like to just like see whether okay you're a team person or not and how well you work in teams. And then I had my like a final interview. This was with Mitch Resnick. So he was my research, like he was my head professor in the research group, and like he actually judged me upon like basic skills, like okay, how what were my expectations and what does he expect from me, and like what are the timelines, and like what details they have in their mind that I should probably look upon, and how this procedure of communication will happen. So my complete communication was happening on Slack, and like there were weekly meetings, sometimes daily meetings also with respect to different people am I working with, something like that. So Yeah, so that way, and they were scheduled on Zoom. And like so at that time we were not sure that key if it will be gonna be work from home or like I might be coming there. So we were discussing about certain like logistics part. So if I come about the scholarship part, so I think in MIT, like what they follow is they generally don't give you stipends unless like the research group that is working you're working under recently got a funding. So but what they do is, so MIT actually charges a very high student fees, like a very high student visiting fees. And when you actually visit MIT, then you can like over the period of for the complete semester, you can actually take part in their classes. You can join their classes. You can be a regular student. You can like attend their placement fairs and all of those things. So I mean, you can attend their libraries and all those things. Basically, you're a normal student there for those 6 months. So that's why they charge you semester fees. So that semester fees is waived off for us. So essentially, we just have to take care about our travel, our food, like our food, accommodation, and all those things. So that comes somewhere around when I was like approximating, that was coming up somewhere around 6 to 7 lakhs for the complete like the procedure, like for the complete 6 months. So yeah, this was my application procedure. I think like I feel like I was slightly lucky in the sense that I could get an interview scheduled applying through LinkedIn, and I haven't cold mailed a lot initially. Later on, I had to because like I mean like initially so I applied to some other universities also, but I cold mailed to them. I haven't received any response, but this was I was lucky with them since like my LinkedIn connection actually helped. So try to like look for out for these type of opportunities. It's not always the same procedure which everyone follows, and it's more like depends on like the research group to research group and institute wise. Cool. So now I feel certain tips and tricks which can like help you make like maximize the thesis experience. So just a second, guys. Let me drink like what I'm actually like speaking a lot. Ha, cool. So I have actually divided this into two sections. So one is like the application phase and the other is thesis phase. I feel application phase is something which is very, very important. And like that is where the difference comes up. And so I feel like some like it's always about the strategy and the like what strategy you have before applying for anything, which actually creates a difference. So one thing which I feel is very, very important, and I'm still actually like trying to encash it, is try to get an early head start. Whenever you're doing anything, try to get an early head start. That actually makes a lot of difference. Reason being, you get a good amount of time to get habitual to the process, to get habitual to the different environment and like the complete thought process that you need to have. Then the second thing is you can pitch that head start pretty well. For instance, let's say you are working on like you are trying to contact a prof which was working on some field X. And let's say you are already working on that field 2 years before. I mean, that's a very hypothetical scenario, but let's say you're working on that field 2 years before. So if you pitch that to the professor, obviously the professor will have a look at you and will like have like will try to like see okay what is the unique thing in you and what is the difference in you. So trust me, these professors got a lot of emails, and there has to be something unique factor in you which makes them look at your profile and like have like shortlist you. So just try to look out for all those unique factors and what early heads and like try to get an early head start. So for instance, if you are applying for a thesis, let's say in 4.1, so just try looking out in the start of 3.2 itself and maybe have a complete plan ready in the 3.1 end or maybe in the 3.1 mid, so that the by the time 3.2 starts, you know, okay, what I have to work upon, what all professors do I need to contact, what all fields I'm interested in, and just like get completely into that. And you don't spend your 3.2 in exploring, okay, no, I should go for this university, or maybe okay, I should go for this prof, because if you spend in that, half of your 3.2 will go into that, and then other half will go in when you start mailing. You won't be getting an email every like the moment you email, and it's not like that you will get a response suddenly. It won't happen for sure. You have to wait like 1 month, 2 months, something like that. I mean, like for the whole process. So it is a like a very tedious process, I must agree. But if you be very systematic and like try to get an early head start, I feel that will create a difference. And as I said, keep your resume, cover letter, projects, portfolio, everything ready and updated. Like have it snappy, pretty good. Like whatever you think you should, like try to give a lot of thought on these things, because this is what a professor sees initially. So you send a cover letter. So a professor will look up at your email and will look up at your resume if he's actually like convinced enough with your cover letter. Now, if he goes into your resume, if he's convinced with your resume, then he will look at your portfolio. Let's say if you have developed one, so that is like a chain of process. So try to be very like snappy and try to be to the point, and like don't try to be very lengthy, because professors don't have a lot of time like reading all your big emails. So and like try to be like very descriptive. Okay, just like as you do an elevator pitch, right? In 1 minute, you tell about the complete startup idea. So in just one email, like the one cover letter, professor should get to know about the complete personality type. Okay, what are you working upon? How well do you work? Like what achievements you have, something like that. So keep your all those things ready, and don't try it like when you're applying. Keep it before, because when you're applying for the universities, just have a complete focus on universities, the emails that you're sending, the replies that you're getting, and the corresponding follow-ups. So yeah, that is something. Then I would feel like, so that is something what not many people do, but I feel that actually creates a lot of difference, and it's actually applicable when you apply for jobs or basically anything. So try to send a personalized email. Personalized email as in, so for instance, let's say you're like emailing some prof from some university, like say University X. So now he's working on, let's say, some ML field. And so you can say that, okay, I have worked, you can try to relate your projects with those field he's working upon. Or maybe like on how you can like if he is working on some research paper, you can say, okay, I have read this research paper, and if you're very fascinated with it. Or maybe like you can say some practical application for it. Or maybe if he's working on some project, you can tell, okay, how you, like what impact you can create on that project. So professor is looking actually for all these things. He's not looking for like a basic template which you are copying pasting to everyone. Okay, I'm a team player, I work on this, I work on that. I mean, I have a feeling like they consider it as a spam and like a mass mail kind of thing. So try to be personalized, give or like try to pitch to the professor why you feel you are very good in working with them. Then be systematic and keep track of all the emails you send. So what I used to do was I used to maintain an Excel sheet. In that Excel sheet, I used to have a column where I used to keep updating that, okay, I have sent this professor this email, and like has he replied yet or not? If he has replied, whether I have replied back or not. Basically, a complete tracking of of what emails I've applied to, what emails should I send a follow-up reminders, because I'll tell you a very like it was like it didn't happen with me, but one of my seniors actually faced this. So what he did was he was mailing one prof. So that prof didn't reply for like 4 emails. And after 4 emails, he replied on the fifth mail, and his response was, I was just checking on how good you are like in follow up and how interested you are in, and I think we can schedule a call. So even those type of things happen. So try to keep sending follow up reminders, maybe like 4 to 5 reminders you can send, but keep it like after a break. Like let's just send one reminder after 2 days, then maybe after like say a week, then maybe after 2 weeks, something like that. Like try to keep an exponential gap kind of thing, so that it doesn't look like just spamming their inboxes also, something like that. And why the Excel sheet? Because you can keep a track of what all emails that you have sent, and accidentally you don't send a same email to a prof twice or something like that. Because I feel these small things matters a lot. And if there is a lot of people applying for one position, you need to have something to stand out. So yeah, that is something this. So try to contribute to any open source project. So I'll tell you why I have like put this point. I have heard like from these, I've actually got this type of query a lot that, okay, I have not worked upon this field, or I don't have any experience. Can I still apply for thesis? Yes, you can. So, I mean, obviously you need to showcase something that, okay, what you are capable of. And if you feel like you don't have any professional experience, or you have not worked with any corporates or anything, try to go for open source. Open source is a very good way of refining your skills. You can refine your code quality skills, you can refine your conceptual skills, and a lot of things. So many of the universities maintain their open source projects, contribute with them, tell to this professor, okay, see, my this particular segment of code is merged into your code base, and then he can have a look at it of your code quality and something like that. So it's basically you're telling the prof that, see, I'm capable of working on this project, and I actually have an idea already key what all things work upon. So in my interview, the first interview which I had, they actually discussed on one of the PR which was merged of me in Scratch sometime very like a long time back, something like that. So I think now it's not visible because they have changed some things over there. But yeah, so like they actually discussed on that. So they do give a thought on these things. And the second, like I would say, be calm and patient throughout the process. It will be frustrating. I'll tell you, you won't get replies for months, and suddenly you will start getting replies. I mean, it all depends on so there's a luck factor involved. I'll be frank. There is a certain component of how systematic and well unique you are, as I'm saying, of how your uh, like how your complete state, like how you're working on the projects or how unique your portfolio is or something like that. So that also makes like is have a like that also is like important in your profile. But like, I mean, you never know. Again, there might be like you might get an hard luck always, so you're never sure. But just give you 100% in the steps that you could probably do, like the things that you have in your hand. Try to be good in your resume, portfolio, get it reviewed from people, get it reviewed from multiple people, keep updating them. So you can like give a thought on these things. Then have a backup option planned. So okay, I think 7:40. We still have some time. So have a backup option planned. Reason being, you're not always sure whether you will be getting something or not. You're not always sure whether you will be getting a thesis or not. One of my very close friends, he was like looking out for thesis and he was very, very passionate about thesis. But the universities he was applying to, so his work actually involved a lot of physical labs involvement. So most of the profs actually declined him at that time because during like they were just new to the COVID protocols and they were not even sure that how they will be carrying out these projects. So he couldn't get into the thesis and ultimately he had to go to some mediocre PS. So try to have a backup option planned. I mean, if not thesis, okay, what PS? So try to like have a list of PS also ready. If at the last moment you need to like change it, what list you should have it. And then like maybe you can focus upon like the corporate thesis part also, which I'll tell you like why I had like a slightly different experience with it. So I'm just gonna come up on that. Coming up on a thesis phase. So if you guys have got your thesis now, you're very like very lucky and like you are skilled enough to go for like a project. Perfect, good. Now what you have to do is to make your experience better. Keep communicating with your mentors as much as you can and keep them updated about your performance. And especially when you're working remotely. Reason being, your grades, like the on-campus grades, are actually decided by them. They need to sign it, and I have heard sometimes that some professors give you problems in the end, saying that, okay, you have not updated us with your work, we can't grade you like this, and all of those things. So those things matter actually a lot, and keep them updated about your progress, what you're working upon. Even keep the on-campus supervisors, like the bits on-campus supervisors that you have, keep them updated about your progress and all, because you never know like at the end like some. So there is a rule in our campus which apparently I know is, so let's say if your on campus thesis supervisor is giving you a very bad grade, something like say B or A minus, something like that, so your on campus thesis supervisor can actually step in and try to improve that grade, provided he's well aware about your progress and he knows what you have worked upon. So like be like keep communicating with both of the professors and like make sure that they're updated with what all you're working upon. Then I think this is like a very golden time for you guys to network. And I think network is very underrated, but network with as many people as you can, because it will actually help you getting contacts. It will actually help you getting what like getting know what new things they are working upon in future. You never know when you start be like when you're interested in that field and maybe you want someone's help, or maybe let's say you're applying for masters and that person can help you giving an LOR. You never know it. So try to network with as many people as you can, and like try to be like very I would say like don't be just very focused on your project only. Like just try to observe how process happens of how like just explore every field that you can and like try to get the most out of your thesis project. Cool. So this was like certain tips and tricks which I think can maximize your thesis experience. I think one of some things which I want to like I have not mentioned them in the doc or being of like because of the official purposes, but certain experiences which I think can help you guys. So one of the questions which like often get a lot is how come in electronics you're getting a CS thesis? How did your HOD approved it? So there is actually like a state of like a workaround for it. So what you have to do is like try to try to find the gap between electronics and your like the project that you're working upon. So try to include some electronics component into it, and then you can pitch it as a multidisciplinary thesis. That's what I worked upon. So if I go on my official thesis title, so as I said, key, I'm going to tell you guys why this last line digital image processing for Raspberry Pi, Legos, ARM kits, etc. is I've not done it, but I've mentioned it. Reason being, Scratch works on Raspberry Pi, Scratch works on Lego ARM kits, and what I was working upon had to actually like how should I say it had to actually work upon Raspberry Pi also. For instance, if you're working on Raspberry Pi, you connect it with an HDMI to a display, you can open a Scratch on that. So I had to make sure that the real-time features works on that as well. So I figured this workaround and I pitched that I will be working on that. So that is some like a very fine thin line which you can try to explore and like try to pitch your professors. Obviously, I'll be very frank, if your thesis is completely CS domain, your HOD won't allow. He rejected my thesis like my when I was asking for his approval, he rejected at the first instant. Then I refined it and I like tried to include some more electronics components, and then it worked out. So I mean, it can help you guys also. I think it is slightly strict for electronics. For other branches, I have heard that the HODs are not very strict. I mean, like they have their different point of view. So yeah, that makes completely sense on their part. But you can probably like explore that. The other thing which I think is like I mean is a option which our campus offers but is not very utilized is a corporate thesis. So if I tell you what corporate thesis is, basically like you work in an organization as your thesis. So for instance, Microsoft offers like the MSR, the Microsoft Research is actually a corporate thesis. And so so earlier actually like I think 2 3 years back, people actually used to work in startups, they used to work in like the fields they're interested in, they used to work in business analysts and all those things. So they used to work on all those fields, and they used to do an corporate thesis which was approved like 3 4 years back very easily. But in the recent times, from the last 1 or 2 years, I've observed that corporate theses are not getting approved. There are only certain institutions which the HODs allow. Reason being, thesis like what people were doing was they were like doing a normal internships and they were trying to pitch it as thesis. So corporate thesis is more like the research that you do in the corporate divisions, but they were actually essentially not doing that. So yeah, that is like I think so. Try to explore that. If you feel you can pitch it in a very good, you got a very good opportunity in something related to that. I feel go for it. It will be a very good experience and can actually help you a lot in learning from like the corporate research point of view. Cool. I think yeah, this is it. I think from my side. I think we still have 10 15 minutes remaining. We can keep, oh yeah, before that, there's one more option that we have is on-campus thesis. So I think again, like, so let me just wait, like this session is not recorded or something, right? Okay, it's recorded. I mean, okay, cool, doesn't matter. So, but yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna tell you like a workaround again. So, like on-campus thesis, I mean, this was actually helpful this like during this year actually. So what was happening was since we were virtual, what actually many people did was they applied for an on-campus thesis and like they was working under prof like for any faculty, they were working on some random problem statement, and off campus they were actually doing an intern in some other company. So I mean, this was possible this time due to virtual scenarios. So if you think like the next semester will like next semester anyway is virtual, if you think next to next semester is virtual, then probably you guys can give a thought on it and like try to like look for an off-campus thesis like off-campus internships and like try to like merge both of them. But if you are on campus, that is not possible. Reason being, most of the corporates will be like not on their work from home model, and they will require you to be like on premises. So yeah, this is something also you can probably do. Cool. I think this was something from my end. Let's just go for like questions, bombard your doubts. The floor is all yours. Just like tell me what all doubts now you have. I've actually like बहुत कुछ बोल दिया मैंने. Cool. So I think I have like let me just go through the chat box once. Okay, so okay, can we spam in the chat? I mean, I can obviously see. So TS online nahi honi chahiye. I mean, yeah, that is something very true. I feel because reason being like the experience that you get actually, matlab, it's not like what you're supposed to get on like off campus. I mean, essentially, to be honest, I still consider my thesis as like just one of my like internships, and like there's nothing like a very snappy USM model in that. So yeah, I mean, I mean, if it's off campus, it's actually way better. So how many I applied though? I think I applied for somewhere around 7 to 8 universities before, and it was on parallel thing that was happening. And 7 to 8 universities I applied. I did a very initial mailers because I was very dicey between PS and thesis at that time. Then I figured out at my CGPA, electronics, and if I'm interested into CS domains, I won't get like the require like the good PS. So then I thought ki maybe let's just try explore the thesis. Cool. So how many accepted? So in my research group, we had two people. So like one was me, other was from IIT Kanpur, and I think like we two were only working in my research group. And for some like my research group actually had a bad experience before in hiring like undergraduates as their like research interns. So first time like after a long time they tried this model. So like that's why they probably hired less. But I think now they can like I'm not sure right now, but maybe like when situation gets better, they might hire more people. So is it rare to get a funded thesis in the US? To be honest, I mean it depends again. So it's actually depends a lot on like factors like what research groups you're applying to, how what funding do they have, are they working on some very trending thing which is like for instance one of my again friends was in university like got into University of Nevada, and I think he was like initially planned to get us like if he was off like if he was there on campus like the Nevada campus, then he would have got a certain stipend, but during off campus it's not. If your thesis is virtual, 99% chances you won't be getting any stipend. There's only like a very rare chances that you will be getting your stipend in the virtual scenarios. In the offline scenarios, again, if you have like if your research group has thesis or something, you can get funding. Uh, there are actually other ways also for getting funding. For instance, there are certain scholarships. One scholarship which our campus only provides is a travel assistance scholarship. So like there is like a travel like they reimburse some travel amount for you. Then there are certain organizations also which can help you in that. So I mean it is possible. Keep looking for the options, you never know. Do you plan to do MS in the future? To be honest, that was I think like my thesis was a very good eye opener for me, and I have a feeling I'm not very interested into the core research part. I'm actually more interested right now into the practical applications and like the complete product building side. So yeah, I think not right now, but maybe in future I have like the like I've tried to like get an LOR or something like that. So I mean I have like a basic backup LOR option. So yeah, in future I might plan, but currently in the next 3 4 years I don't think so. You have a thesis in development, so are you eligible for an MS in computer science, even though you're from electronics branch? I think so, yes. Reason being, the profs, like, so when you go for an MS interview, So they actually like look at for your complete profile, and they never look out like, okay, if you're from electronics, you can like go for electronics programs only. It never happens like that. Definitely you are eligible for it. There might be certain factors involved. So I mean, again, that's where the luck factors comes in now. For instance, some other person with same skills and same fact, like everything same as you, might given like he might be given preference at that point of time. But I have a feeling skills always matters the most. Try to work on your skills, and like they can like, I think like always makes a difference. In my scenario, skills was always like the most helpful thing for me. What was the CGPA? So at the time I was applying my for my thesis, my CGPA was somewhere around 7.51, something like that. What CG does a ECA guy needs to do to get PS and CS? Again, it depends. If you're targeting like a very top-notch CS-oriented companies, I mean, I don't think they even open for us. This time, I think semester two, I remember one or two companies like Flipkart and all were open for electronics people, but I think they were very high, somewhere around 9 CGPA plus. So yeah, that's the biggest problem I feel is with a big is a PS2 is everything is just on CGP and they never like uh, take in consideration your skills. So yeah, that was the prime reason for me not going for a PS. You mentioned the various stages before securing your thesis. What happens if after months of work, you don't clear one of the stages? Are you supposed to factor in the risk of not clearing immediate intermediate stages and ended up wasting a lot of your time? So to be honest, yes, this can happen. And I was also scared about this. And so that was actually like, that's actually a very good question asked, because the reason being I was still not sure whether I'll be sitting on campus placements for semester one or I'll be going for a thesis in semester one. So I was trying to like have a tough time manage my placement preparations as well. But I think like things worked out quite well in my case, and I could get into this. So I think what you guys can probably do is try to like manage it. Like, don't just involve completely into this. I mean, as I said, keep backup options ready. Keep looking out for other things also. This thing can happen. Uh, Generally, there are not a very intensive assignments, but I don't know why. Probably my research group had a very bad experience in hiring interns before. That's why they had like a very tough process. So maybe that's the reason. But generally, they don't involve you into a lot of pre like application phase projects. When do we have to confirm to BRICS whether we are going to PS or thesis? So I think again, I feel again that is where I was slightly lucky. Reason being, what happened was in our time everything got delayed a lot. For instance, the we actually like before so for 2016 batch, if I tell about timelines, during March starting, like just after the midsems, we need to submit whether we are going for a PS or thesis, like an initial. So no, for no, so not that. Initially, we have to choose which semester we are going. Are we going for semester one or semester two? So just after the midterms, COVID happened. We are not sure what was happening. So that thing delayed until somewhere around, I would say, April mid. And that is where I think the different, like that is where I think I got a leverage and I could explore more. So yeah, so that was the first time. And the option for choosing your PS and TS was there somewhere till April end for us, but I think for you guys, it will be somewhere till April first week. So if you guys are choosing, like if you initially, like say, picked TS, then going back to PS is slightly difficult if algorithm, like if the allotments are, like if the allotments are done, then it's a very rare chance you will get a PS back. But if allotments are not done, then you have to like do some sort of convincing that can happen. But if you're from PS and you want to go to TS, that is very easy process because they don't care actually, provided allotments are not done. I mean, if allotments are done, still you can switch from PS to TS. Generally, PS division doesn't give a lot of problems. At the start of thesis, did you feel like the entire topic is a black box? Okay, so at the start of a big project, I tend to be nervous whether I will be able to achieve all the objectives or not. Even though I know I'm capable and have done two projects. Okay, I mean, to be honest, this is something very, very relatable. I still feel these things even when I'm working on new projects or maybe the new task which my manager gives or anything. This is something very common. I think like this sense of, I mean, like the sense of like nervousness is there and it will be still there. And like I think how you can probably overcome what I used to do was I used to focus on my positives. Like, okay, on my like on my back record, okay, I see I have completed this. I can probably do this also. I mean, initially, anything that you are learning, the learning phase is quite tough. But once you pass that like phase, I think things will be easier. So just like believe on you and just try to like focus on just passing like the first 10% or 20% of the project, and then things will be way easier and way better for you. So yeah, this is what I like focus upon. If you had a higher CG, would you still go for a thesis or PS? To be honest, it doesn't matter for me. I mean, I have never focused on my CG a lot. I just try to maintain a decent CG so that I clear cutoffs. And I think even if I had a higher CG, it doesn't like I will go for like it's for sure I will go for thesis. I don't think so. I mean, if you guys are following on that approach, pretty sure you will end up confusing after the 4 years. Just try to explore, try to see what is good for you, and like go for it. Cool. I think this was like what all we had like on the chat box. Yeah, so a reminder for you guys, there is a session at 8 by I think like Meet. So do attend that. He's gonna be on computational fluid dynamics. So that is like a very good topic, I feel, and like a very different topic from what I was working upon. So he's probably gonna tell you the core research aspect of it. Like the complete papers, how many publications, all those things do you have and all those things. So yeah. Any other doubts you have, you can probably unmute your mic and ask also. What's the time? I think yeah, we are right on time. So, any other doubts, anything, any feedback you have for me? Was this session informative for you guys? Also, I think I would like to like thank CT for this. Reason being, it's not like it's actually one of the very good initiators I feel, because I think there was no one at my time helping me out. Like, okay, what should I pick up? I used to just randomly trouble seniors. I used to do network a lot, but I think this can help you like learning from my experiences and can like help you guys like see. I feel like it's always on the like this thing like just try to learn as much as you can from the experiences from someone else so that you don't make that mistake again. So yeah, that's it. I think cool. I think it's really great. It was very helpful for you. If you guys have any queries, you can ping me also. So I'll try to apologize right now only that key I might like not reply at an instant because like my WhatsApp is generally like very cloudy and I don't open it a lot. But if I don't apply it like from a long like if I don't reply it for a long time, just call me up. I mean, I'll try to help you. Guys, just ping me up on WhatsApp or maybe on like the replies after 7 days. I mean, like, sorry, I mean, that's just, like, I just don't check WhatsApp a lot, but yeah, maybe like, just like, maybe social media handles or anything. So cool. Any other doubts or anything, or you can probably like then end the session. Cool. I think so. I mean, like, perfect. Thank you so much, guys, for being such a great audience. And I think it was like a very good session. Probably it would be my last session in bits. So yeah, all the best and just focus on your skills. I think that will be like be a game changer in the long term. I have a feeling like that. I mean, just don't try to be like a CGPA god and like just trying to be like just focusing on CGPA. I mean, they do matter. It matters a lot, but just don't like uh, I mean, like, how should I say this? Just don't like slack off the other things. Cool. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Like, just close this over. Let me. I think you guys can stop recording also.
Yeah, thank you, Nipun, for the amazing session. It was really helpful, and we wish you all the best for your future too. And also, if you guys are interested in joining the computational fluid dynamics session, it's about to start by 8:05. You all can join there.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. I'll share this deck with the CT people also, so they can share with you guys. And just let me know if you have any problems or concerns. All right. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.